Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to walk you through the final version of my game for our processing final. I've ultimately recreated the arcade game Frogger. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, ultimately you're playing as a frog and you need to get yourself across traffic and in the other versions across some moving logs to either side. I've simplified it a little bit, so ultimately you're crossing traffic and then there is a fly at the other side that when you mouse press, the frog's tongue sticks out, and as long as that intersects with the fly, he gets to eat the fly, and he goes back to the beginning of the screen to start playing again and try to cross and gain as many points as he can in the 60 seconds that the game runs for. So I'm going to run it now and show you how to play and hopefully score some points. Okay, so you kind of get the gist of it. It took me a few tries. Ultimately, because I have time left right now, I'll show you this quickly. I can reset to 3 lives by pressing Shift and start over with the remaining 18 seconds that you see here. So I keep my current score of 2, and I get to keep going and just kind of use up the time just for fun. And then when the time expires, soon I won't be able to restart it all. And that's it. So that's the game over. My final score ended up being 3. So now I'm going to walk you through the actual code that shows how all that works. So in our main program, we are declaring the arrays of cars, trucks. I did make the fly an array and also the frogs. I set the lives remaining starts at 3 and the score starts at 0. And ultimately you're going to have 60 seconds to cross. So at the beginning, game over is false, roadkill, meaning the frog getting run over by either a car or a truck, is false, and dinner time, meaning that the frog has intersected with a fly, is also false. So I load the frog image, I load the sounds for both the ribbit every time he hops and the horns at the beginning for the traffic, and then we get started. So we initiated our frog, starting with the 3 lives as I said, get the cars and the trucks and the fly going, start the timer, and then like I said, when the game first starts you did hear that sort of traffic noise. Ultimately I was going to try and have that run while he's in traffic and then switch the sound once he's over by the stream, but I wasn't able to figure out exactly how to do that. I tried to restrict the Y values and it either played once or didn't play at all, so I figured once was better than nothing and let that run. So the cars are looping, as you saw, left to right, and they're random color, random speed, so each game is a different level of difficulty depending on how fast they're running. I believe I have both of them running between 1 and 10, so it could be anywhere from nice, super slow, you can hang out in that lane for a while, or as you saw me get run over quite a few times, they can buzz by a little bit faster. The fly is also set at a random speed of 6 to 10, so he's a little bit faster, but also, as you saw, if you just kind of hold the tongue out, you're guaranteed that he'll intersect it when he flies by on the next loop. So for the game, if the game is over, I set it up as an if and else clauses. So if the game is over, as you saw, it displays game over, your final score, and then the option to reset your lives with the time remaining on the clock. I did want to be able to reset the clock entirely so that you could just press shift and restart the whole game, but I couldn't work out the coding to get the clock to reset. I could only get lives and score to reset, and I felt like it was kind of weird to reset the score if I was going to knock you out of the time that you had already spent. So I decided to just kind of let people play it out, reset lives, and go from there. So if the game is not over, which is obviously the hope, we draw it out. So there's the grass, the curb, the road, boardwalk, river, lane markers, displaying all those cars and trucks, and then printing out the score and the time remaining, lives remaining, so the player understands kind of what's going on. The other way the game ends, obviously, is if the timer is finished, which would render game over to be true. And the last parts are the key press, so the frog can move in any of the 4 directions within the constraint of the screen. And then again, if he wants to restart with the time left, you can hit shift, which again makes game over false and gives you another 3 lives. So in each class, the cars and the trucks are very similar, so I'll show you those together. Ultimately, we're talking about the X and Y location and the speed. The color is random, the X speed is random, but the Y speed I've obviously constrained to that bottom half of the screen for the cars to move at the bottom. I just draw them as a simple rectangle and filled them, gave them wheels, a window, and a random color. So they're at random speeds. Once they go off the screen, they come back on. Trucks are same thing, they're just slightly different size, because typically trucks and cars are different sizes. The fly is pretty simple as well. His speed is random, but everything else is pretty standard. He's at the same Y value the whole time, and he stays the same color because flies are only one color. So I just drew him using an ellipse and gave him some wings for detail. And again, his speed just moves right to left. If he goes off the screen, he comes back. The timer class is the same standard one we used for the other games we played, so I'm not going to explain that too much. But I will talk more about the frog class because that was where a lot of the meat of this coding went in. So I ended up using that frog image, and if the mouse is pressed, you saw the frog tongue when I was able to score some points. That's a mouse pressed function. And here are all our booleans. So I did a boolean roadkill for the car, roadkill C is for the car, and right below it is boolean roadkill T for truck. So that calculates the distance between the X and Y of the frog and the X and Y of the car, and if the distance is less than the radius plus the car's radius, he loses a life and he goes back to that start position of X 300, Y 600. Exact same thing for the truck, just obviously with the truck values. And then for the fly, I wanted to make it based on his tongue. So initially I had it the same, just based on that radius. But ultimately, as soon as he got to the other side of the riverbank, he was ultimately coming in contact with the radius of the fly. So I made it a little bit more difficult and said that the mouse had to be pressed and the distance had to be less than 16, which might seem a little bit arbitrary, but I ran the distance, I printed a line of the distance as I ran the sketch to see exactly how close he gets, and he doesn't get any closer than 16 with some decimals points, so I figured that was as close as I wanted him to get for him to score a point. So same thing, if the distance is less than 16 and the tongue is out, he catches the fly, he scores a point, and he again goes back to the beginning of the X equals 300, Y equals 600. So I hope you like my game and I hope you have fun playing. I had a lot of fun making it. I do wish I could have gotten the reset to work as I had hoped in terms of resetting the game at the beginning, or possibly to get the sounds working throughout, kind of on a bigger loop than just playing once. But I'm happy with the ribbit working for each step, and that might have been too much to have both the ribbit and the noise of the elements. So anyway, hope you like the game, and thanks for watching.